Welcome to the Waldorf Gridiron Club podcast, your home for all things football at Waldorf University, the best small college football experience in America. Hosted by Andy Buffington and me, Troy Thompson, from the secret bunker beneath Bullsdorf Field.
Welcome to this episode of the Waldorf Gridiron Club podcast. Well, folks, we're rolling along still, and I use the word rolling way too much, obviously, if you've listened to this podcast. Last week we had the godfather of the GPAC.
You called him the grandfather.
I called him the grandfather.
I don't know if he was ready for that.
I'm older than he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm older than him. But Coach Franzen was on, and he did a great job. And we're beyond excited to welcome another GPAC coach, the man that leads the university over there in Mount Marty in Yankton. So, Coach John Michaletti. Coach, welcome to the podcast, bud.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Looking forward to have some fun here with you guys.
For sure, absolutely. So, how are things in Yankton today? It's cold here in north central Iowa.
Yeah, definitely cold. I think we're sitting at -4 right now, so not exactly tropical by any means. But other than that, sun shines out, and I'm moving around all right, so can't complain too much.
Well, that's good. That is good.
How's the team? It's all indoor workouts, isn't it now? And everybody's working in the weight room, getting strong and ready for all the hard work starts in the off season. And then the season is just when you show off, right?
Exactly. No, it's definitely doing all of our weight room training and team building, things like that. So we do some fun competitions over the off season where we divide up into different competition groups where our leadership is really running all off season long. Guys that want to be captain or get the votes as captain, which we allow our team to vote for. So they're having different opportunities to be able to lead different groups of people. We give them names and they're able to compete, positively for positive points. And if they were doing anything negative, then obviously they subtract points, but different ways for us to, get the team camaraderie down, the accountability down and things like that. So it's full go right now. And, we're closing in. We were just looking at the calendar and spring break will be here before we know it in the first week of March. And right after that, we'll get going into spring ball.
Very nice. So how did everything shake out as far as at the end of the season? How many seniors did you say goodbye to, and did you have a lot of luck on the recruiting trail? As soon as you guys walked off the field after that last game.
Yeah, this was our for those listeners that don't know, this was our fourth season of having a team all in general. So those seniors that came in as our first ever freshmen were able to walk out of the door and leave us a little bit better than they found it, as they say. So we had 36 of those seniors that are going to graduate here in May, or a few of them did graduate at semester there. Which is a very big group, but as you kind of expect that with the first group making their way through. But yeah, we did. We got 33 guys signed right now as we're heading in just past signing day to the early parts of February, and looking to kind of wrap things up in that room as we get ready for spring ball. So very excited about the guys being able to step up. You've seen a lot of the same faces, and as much as that allows the coaches to feel a little bit more comfortable. I know there's been some guys that have been chomping at the bit, waiting for their window of opportunity to take advantage of. So excited for those guys to make a name for themselves.
36, that's great retention, Coach. Those were all 36 that started as freshmen and went all the way through the 4 years and maybe a little longer than that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we had a few of those guys were, we brought in, 33 guys, I think it was, the year before the year. Where we had everybody redshirt the COVID year and everything like that. So a couple of those guys were still sticking around for their fifth year, but yeah, 36 guys overall. And, that's one thing is reflecting on how we started the program and really bought into the players and making sure that their experience overall was the best it could be, and I'm not a big moral victory guy, but, when you're going into your first year in the GPAC and, you get a lot of freshmen up there battling, 22-year-olds and things like that. You try to look for different ways to measure success. And, we talked about those guys just, buying into each other and allowing it bigger than yourself. And it was good to see those guys when they left, finished with a winning season at least. So, it was a little bit patient waiting for that for those seniors, but I would say if you ask the majority of them, it was worth the wait for them.
Well, that's just, we know what you're talking about.
You're preaching to the choir.
Preaching to the choir. On that first year, what's the first year in the GPAC like? Well, for us, it's 0-11. But so that was, a wake-up call for sure. You had a pretty good season, 5-5, coming in 500 in a very tough conference in the GPAC, 6-5 overall. So that's a winning season, like you said. That's great. And the program is just a few years old. Is it? Did I hear you right on that?
Yep. So we our first year too, we went 0-10 in the GPAC, and then moved into 3 wins the last 2 years, and then got into 6 this last one. So trying to do it the right way. As I mentioned, there's a million different ways to skin a cat, as most coaches will say. So there's a million different right ways. It's just making sure you surround yourself with good people. And, I'm forever indebted to a lot of these assistant coaches that I have here. Athletic director Andy Bernardo was a longtime baseball coach here. So he's a guy that's been through it, and a guy I lean on constantly for mentorship and leadership and things like that, which really makes it a appealing job, I should say.
Well, talk to us a little bit more about that, Coach. That's really interesting. Waldorf's had football since 1920, and of course, we were a junior college up until the early 2000s. It had some hybrid bachelor programs in the late 90s and things like that. Now, full-on university, and that progress is actually not uncommon with the schools in the GPAC. So it is interesting, and I don't think. So are you then? Would you say are you the freshest football program age-wise then in the GPAC? Because I know some of those, like Hastings and places like, they've been playing football since the 1800s. Yeah. And then but I thought that Dordt started their football program.
Dordt was like 2008 maybe. Yeah. 2008 or 2009. And then Briarcliff was a few years before that.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's been a while since there's been a new program that has started within the GPAC, at least since that I can remember. But definitely not an easy task, as we can both kind of relate to that. But it's part of the fun of, you don't want an easy path. You want to challenge day to day, and it's nice being able to know that you're not only going against good coaches, but good athletes and good athletic institutions, I guess, altogether, athletic programs. So as you can see, that in and out of all sports, the GPAC conferences are very competitive. What was it last year? They had the Learfield small conference or small college conference, and GPAC was ranked number 1 throughout all of America and all the smaller institutions, not just NAI. So, you're looking at the basketballs and the volleyballs and all that stuff. You're seeing not just 1 or 2 teams in the top 10 or top 25. It's a vast majority of the conferences. So, obviously there's going to be bias to certain geographical locations and things like that, but it's definitely some good people here in the upper Midwest, and some good football, some good sports in general.
How did you start up a program? I mean, you were there from the beginning, right? So is
correct?
That, yeah. Yep. So like, you're out recruiting, and you haven't played a season. How did those conversations go a few years ago?
Yeah, and then throw COVID where you can't meet in person with anybody on top of it.
What a year! Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of fun. No, it was, really trying to find the right pieces. So usually in my past, recruiting wise, is, you're selling the tradition, selling what the school's been. Well, now you're pretty much selling the opportunity for them to create the tradition, so you're looking for guys that can kind of see down the road a little bit. And if I do these certain things in the process, that the end goal will be achievable, rather than, too many people now. And shoot, we're all kind of guilty of it, probably at some way, shape, or form, of seeing it right now. Like, I want to get to that goal now instead of focusing on the process. So really getting those guys process driven and focus on the day to day, and being fresh each day. As I mentioned, we had a big struggle in our first year of going 0-10, and sometimes having those conversations, those team meetings, and talking to them after practice. I was like, man, I must seem like a broken record. But allowing those guys to have a common person, common message, being able to reiterate that over and over again, and trusting the process of getting there. And then obviously, looking ahead now and having those guys see some of that success now allows for this next group of guys to be like, okay, hey, we are on the right path, instead of out there looking for their own path. Because we all know that those group, I always say, paint the picture. It's like me telling you on Google Maps, this is the best way to get from point A to point B. But you're like, no, I think I got a better way. I think I can do it this way. And that's not what a team does. A team's got to be on the same path together.
Well, we left the
North
Star Conference. I was saying Northern Sun. That's a different conference.
Yeah. We're not D2, but
no, that was the older boys. But they so that who was there was a Catholic school that shut down. Presentation.
Yeah,
did you gain some from Presentation then, because their football program folded when the school folded? So
we actually got to play them in our first or second season, and that was actually our first ever win in history of our program, was against Presentation. We actually started a traveling trophy that quickly ended after that year. But
so you got to keep
Catholic Cup going against them, but so we got a nice trophy out of the deal. But no, we had a couple. We had a kicker, a senior kicker that transferred for the next year from Presentation. But yeah, that was about it. Being able to get from them, but it was definitely one of those things we're looking into, maybe getting their retractable dome that they would put up. That would
that's
nice
right. Yeah, everybody's got their eyes on that thing. I think that was one of our first things. Oh, Presentation closed. Can we get their stuff?
Well, that's right. Yeah, Iowa Wesleyan closed.
Iowa Wesleyan, they didn't have any stuff.
They didn't have any good stuff, So,
and I think, Coach, your alma mater actually kind of took over some of their things at St. Ambrose. Yeah, because you've had, success has followed you everywhere you went, it seems like, Coach, because, obviously you're a Rock Island kid is where you grew up, and then you went over and played at St. Ambrose, and then you were a GA there for a couple seasons as well, doing defensive backs and strength and conditioning. And I found it very interesting. This year we had our first postseason awards through our Gridiron Club. We paid for a pretty cool event. But you were the first recipient at St. Ambrose of the Bob Jurovitz Award. Bob was he was one of the great of all times there at St. Ambrose. And he unfortunately had ALS and died as a young man, but it seemed like he, and that sounds like that's quite an honor that you were the first recipient of that. Is that something you look back on today and still kind of wear that badge with a lot of pride?
Yeah, as I hear you talking through all the past, and I just, a lot of luck, being in the right place in the right time and being around a lot of good people. Looking back at my high school, I went to a small Catholic high school in Rock Island at Allman Catholic that right now it doesn't have a football team. They're actually bringing it back this next fall. So excited to kind of see how that gets going. They had a couple years off there where their enrollment dropped, so they ended up dropping football for a couple years. But was around some longtime coaches there that did a great job of buying into their players and developing them, and getting the opportunity to go over to St. Ambrose and playing for Coach Magistrelli, who had a ton of success there at St. Ambrose. And then my defensive coordinator was Coach Jeff Gersh, who's now the head coach down at Angelo State. My offensive coordinator was Coach Matt Drinkle, who just became the head coach at Central Michigan last offseason. And that's who I followed down to Kansas Wesleyan. That's really who I owe a lot of my my time to, because he really talked me into being a GA. I was kind of lost after playing, and he was like, well, if you don't know what you're doing, and you seem to mingle well with the players. I was a voted captain 2 years in a row and things like that. So I moved into a grad assistant role and really just fell in love with it. And I always had a knack for the weight room, and that was my undergrad, was exercise science. So being able to, do that and apply that stuff directly towards the football team was awesome. But yeah, then I followed Coach Drinkle down to Kansas Wesleyan, where I became the defensive coordinator, and really helped turn that program around. They went from being a 2-win program for a few years there to being a top 5 team in the nation there my last 2 years there. And had a lot of fun there in the KCAC, and Coach Drinkle left to go to West Point, Army West Point. And I was looking, for the next thing, and Mount Marty was looking to open football, and looking at where it was geographically on the map. I met my wife in Kansas, so her family's from Kansas, mine's from Illinois, so it's not exactly smack dab in the middle between them, but close enough driving distance to both families. So it worked out. A big family guy. So I want to make sure that they're part of the decision. And then when I came up to visit Yankton, South Dakota, it was a beautiful spot, a safe spot to raise a family. So
Yeah.
kind of was a no-brainer. But yeah, definitely going back to the St. Ambrose days and the Bob Jurvitz Award, it was definitely a huge honor. You know, it was one of those things that's kind of instilled in me from a young age. My dad always was never embarrass your name. You know, I'm John the seventh in my family, so
Oh, wow.
a lot of John Michelettis. My oldest son is John Michaletti, being real creative with our names in our family. But I always wanted to make sure that I, try to always outwork everybody, do things like that, and bring a fresh mentality every day, and never walk by responsibility. I always remember my dad saying that a true man never walks by responsibility. So if there's something to get done, not leave it for the next man. So I think it was kind of how I was raised and all that kind of set me up to win that prestigious award. Something very proud of, but definitely had a lot of good teammates that could also won that award.
Sure.
We have you have 3 kids. You said John on your bio on the website says you call him Jack.
Yep, he goes by Jack. So that's when my wife's yelling at me. He doesn't think he's in trouble.
Yeah,
So,
That's a good call.
I've got a Jack as well, and so and then
Okay.
you got a Scott. He plays for Waldorf, but you got a Scotty and Ridge.
yep.
That's a cool
So-
name.
It is a great
Ridge,
name.
Yeah,
Ridge
so,
Michaletti.
a
Are you
little-
kidding me?
Yep.
A little story behind the name. So yeah, like I said, my oldest, he's John, but goes by Jack, and his middle name, grown up in Illinois, diehard Bulls fan, so his middle name is Jordan. They got Scotty, Scottie Pippen, my middle one,
yeah.
was a girl, and then Ridge. So my wife and I got married out in Zion National Park in Utah. So we're
beautiful.
trying to tie that in some way. And so we went with Ridge. There's a lot of Ridges out there, and his middle name is Rodman. So he's going to be our hellion there.
The Disruptor. Yes.
Yep.
Does he have pink hair yet?
Yeah. Or
Not yet.
does he have an affinity for North Korea? Perhaps like he has the ability. He keeps an eye on the world news. So what's going on over there?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly. He was christened when he was 1 and got his first tattoo the same day.
We always tell our son Colin, who's my youngest, and he's probably the best basketball player of the 4 boys that I've got, and we're just like, we want you to be like. I mean, we want you to be like Rodman on the court, not
Yep.
not the other stuff, but
Exactly.
be a disruptor and
You got to respect the way he played basketball.
Oh,
He
yeah.
showed the effort. Like he
rebound
wanted every
champ,
ball.
yeah, 100%.
He took the dirty work seriously. He didn't want all the luxury of the points, man. But he would get 20 rebounds or whatever he needed to, set the mean screens.
Yeah. Well,
Loved it.
there is I know. So I'm an Army retiree, Army National Guard, and you mentioned West Point for the other coach. Obviously, I see. I mean, there is a little string of Army connections. But of course, Rock Island Arsenal is over where you grew up. That's a big one. And then you spent some time down in Salina. Kansas has got. That's where all of the officer candidate school, not all of it, but most of the officer candidate school training occurs in the nation. So there's a big unit over there, and then of course Yankton, actually where you are now. That's maybe not directly Army, but they've got a huge Army Corps of Engineer project out there for the reservoir. So but we also did some research. This was back in the summer. Last summer, we sat down with Coach Chapa, and each week we just covered a new school for us in the GPAC and got to know, based on our research and conversation, just, this is a little bit about the history of their town or their program or whatever it was. And we know a few things about Yankton and
Very little.
One of which is that we have you had the USS Scorpion there, which is of course a Navy submarine, I think is what it was, wasn't it?
Actually, I don't think it was a submarine. I think there was a USS Scorpion that was a submarine.
It was a submarine.
Yeah, that was after the original Scorpion.
Are you aware of the USS Scorpion situation?
I'm learning something now.
Okay, there's a USS Scorpion. Is it a museum, Andy?
I don't know.
We don't know.
That was a long time ago. That was this summer.
That was the summer. Yeah. Okay. All right.
A lot of stuff in between there.
Well, we found out. Look, we got to find out, Coach, how much you know about where you live, because last week when we were talking to Coach Franzen, he was all up on the
the Sasquatch Museum.
He hadn't been there.
He hadn't been there. He said it was by appointment only.
Yeah.
And then he says it's kind of like a house, so he'd recommend calling ahead, or whatever.
Don't just show up.
Yeah. And then we knew about their situation with the birthplace of Kool-Aid, which was called Fruit Smack. So we try to find a little bit about every place there.
Well, one of the things that really
I didn't know we used to be the capital way back before
Yep.
the territory really. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so one of the things that I always recollect when we're talking about when we did our introduction to the GPAC series this last summer, and it's out there for you to listen to. And but the reality is that looking where your campus is, right along Lewis and Clark Lake, the river right there, you guys are nestled right up against it. And I think about how beautiful would that be to be able to look south over into Nebraska, even though it's Nebraska. That's kind of tough anyway, but still looking over into Nebraska across this beautiful river. And when we look south from our campus, we see Winnebago Industries.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of steel buildings.
Winnebago.
You bet.
Hey, Coach, that's not the most beautiful thing that you look at after when I went to the game there in Yankton. You've got a beautiful former campus immediately adjacent to the football field, and that's a prison.
Yep, an old Yankton College.
Yeah. And it's beautiful.
Zato is the one name that everybody wants to drop, but beautiful campus. You're driving by, and you're just like, "What is this?" Like, obviously, everybody puts together it's a campus, but then you get reading the signs, and I go, "U.S. Federal Prison."
Yeah,
like this is not what you would assume a federal prison to look like, but it is. From my research, at least, it's been some of your guys that are living out the last parts of their sentence, or some of the lower crime, I guess not some of the aggressive crime inmates, the money laundering and stuff like that, are those where some of those guys will go. And you'll see them, when we leave practice or something like that, they'll be, walking around getting their exercise in and stuff like that. But
we did. We did. Obviously we were on the visitor side, so when we're there, you put the visitors, closest to the federal prison, and so you park you park your vehicle right there, and we were my wife and I were driving around like, well, this is actually pretty nice. Like, if you had to go to prison, like, this is probably where you would want to go. It's just beautiful, and you see guys out there walking around, and Andy, like, you think fences and things like that. It's like, I think you could step over the fence. I don't think
it's not even a 4-foot privacy. It's like a 2-foot fence.
Do they watch? Do you ever see any? You
got signs up on the Saturdays? You guys are home games? No,
you should.
They barely look. I think they're probably told not to interact with the public and all that stuff.
I feel like if you made an investment, maybe got some fans over there, some of those guys are probably going to get out, and if they've got financial crimes, who knows? You might have a big
donor
gift for I wouldn't let him be the treasurer of the Gridiron Club for you over there, but
some good ideas. And I'll write some of these down.
Right.
You had mentioned Lyle Alzado in the same breath as the prison. I don't know if Lyle ended up there or not, but some of the people that we had seen that were associated with Yankton, at least, is like Tom Brokaw, Adam Vinatieri. And then, of course, Lawrence Welk used to be there at the radio station there in Yankton. He was like the studio band.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a North Dakota guy, but then he came all the way south to the border, and which again, big deal. But so I don't know, is Vinatieri or Alzado, or is there any of their money coming back into your program since you guys started?
Is Lyle Alzado still alive?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
God rest his soul.
He's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But no, we don't see. We do get quite a bit of love from the old, they call it YC, but the Yankton College alum. We interact with their old football team. They'll do different golf outings, getting back into town, and we always try to link up with them. And we've always talked about maybe trying to do, since we really don't have a throwback, but doing some type of interaction with the old YC club, of being able to do a throwback game for them, since that is their old field that we play on, is the old Yankton College field. So
that's great.
But yeah, it's a good idea. Maybe I should reach out to Vinatieri, see what we can get going.
I think so.
Fork over a little bit,
Well, yeah, a couple million for the program probably couldn't hurt. Then you could
name the field after him,
Well, and then you could go over to the old presentation campus and just wrap that bubble up and take it right over to your campus. Now you got it.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about -4.
So I will say so your tailgating, if I recall that, I think your tailgating happens like four or 5 blocks away at the park. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. The Memorial Park right in the middle. Yeah. Right next to big old water complex and stuff like that. But yeah, it's about 3 to 4 blocks down the road from our football field.
And when we were there, I believe it was homecoming for you.
Yes,
I think so. Yes,
it
was.
It was.
Well, you're welcome. We didn't want to ruin your homecoming. And so at first I was like, well, I thought that I thought your game day operations were really good. Like I'm the announcer for the Warriors on game day, and I thought that your announcer did a great job for the game day, and then but I was kind of looking at the visitors in the GPAC are always, numbers are small. But so
not Morningside.
No, they travel pretty well.
They did.
But they, I looked across the field at the home section. I was like, well, I mean, they got to have more people coming than this. And of course, it was homecoming, so there was a lot going on. And then just before kickoff,
boom,
it was full. Yeah, you had a great turnout.
Yeah, and always see, I've been expecting that. So we've been number 1 or number 2 in the GPAC of attendance each of the years so far, and you expect that our first year. There's excitement of football getting to Yankton and all that, but each and every year, I'm like, we run out for the last couple of minutes. You're like, where's everybody at? And then, after the first quarter or something, you look at it and you're like, holy cow, like when did these people get here? So
great.
Yankton is very much a football town. Obviously some of that's done with recruiting too, making sure that you have local recruiting to bring the family and friends and all that stuff. But definitely is a football town where it kind of shuts down when we're playing, when the high school is playing, things like that. They're very into football season, and that's what makes it fun, especially for the guys that are competing out there and looking in the stands and knowing that they're doing it for more than just themselves, and that there's people taking pride and interest in what they're doing. And obviously I love the stuff after the game of feeding our guys, constantly team meals and stuff like that saves my budget, but more importantly brings our guys together and interacts, intertwines them with the community.
Yeah, absolutely. We treat our guys like we're 11-0. From the gridiron perspective, and they have we feed them after the game, and I think when you come to town later this fall, you'll see that we've got a pretty good tailgate section. We're right up against the field, so they're just there, and you'll get to walk through them. And they're very polite, they
better be.
They're very polite. The fans, we love the game, and we love the GPAC. It's great to be a part of it. So that was the one victory that we definitely experienced. The game after game was coaches from all the other schools will be like, oh, we got a lot of people out there in the tailgate area. Like, what's going on? Considering our record, but that's just how it's been for several years, and we love it. So we look forward to it.
I remember when I was at St. Ambrose, even playing, we'd play Waldorf, and walking right through it and all that stuff. So it was. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, and Coach Ryan, Morningside was our last home game, and of course, we were. Nobody had delusions of grandeur with Morningside coming to town. But at the same time, before the game, Coach Chop and Coach Ryan were standing out in the midfield, and Coach Ryan turned and looked at our tailgate setup, and there was quite a few people over there, and he's like, "What's the story with this?" Kind of like, how in the world can you guys get this guy? Yeah. And again, it's great to have that kind of following, and it's great for us to be able to have our tailgate close. And obviously it sounds like there in Yankton at Mount Marty, you guys have a really big following, and people like to have fun and come out on game day.
Yeah, they did, Andy. They definitely did. And on that Morningside game here, Coach, I will tell you that Morningside travels pretty well. I'm sure you know that.
Oh boy!
Yeah. They have they're bringing this giant maroon or crimson colored tent that they have. It was very windy at Bull Store Field, and
cool.
and go and that wind picked that big tent up and turned it upside down after the game. But we have our guys over there, and we just helped them all set it back up, and it was a good time. And so we're looking forward to having you out at Bullstorf Field later this fall for sure. You know when you were at Kansas Wesleyan, I noticed that they were called the Coyotes. Do they go by Coyotes or Coyotes?
Coyotes.
Yeah. Did you know, here's a little trivia, that was actually Waldorf football's original name.
First. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Then they moved on later to alliteration and went with the Waldorf Warriors. But
I think that sounds better.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it works.
Yeah. But unfortunately, there's another ELCA Lutheran Warriors team already in the GPAC, and so we're so maybe that'll have to be our. You said there was what did you call it? There was like the Catholic Cup. Maybe we'll have to do like a Lutheran.
Yeah, the
Lutheran Cup,
the 98 Theses Cup or something like that.
That's right. We left one
the
off.
Warriors chalice.
Well, whoever wins gets to put the 99th.
That's what
they
it
get
is
to decide
for that time. That's right.
Yeah.
One more complaint.
So, Coach, I want to go back a little bit. Listen to you talk. Obviously, you came from, you had a lot of success as a player and then a coach, and then you go to Kansas Wesleyan and that program, like you said, top ranked and stuff like that. And just listening to you talk, it sounds like culture and building that culture in your program, regardless if you're the head coach, the offensive coordinator, defense, it doesn't matter. What does that look like for you, and how important is it?
It's the most important thing. I think if there's clear guidelines of what expectations are, not gray area of what's going to be acceptable and all that stuff, will allow for a cleaner product out there. And then exactly what the expectation of is the guy next to you, that him and I are going to do the exact same thing. And I'm not going to be asked to show up to everything and get the same reward if this guy doesn't show up to anything and get the same, reward that I got. So,
right.
We talk a lot about trust, and obviously that's a big way to be able to build trust. And then we get talking about commitment, and being able to prove your commitment. And, once again, talking about how generations have changed. Commitment is one of those things that you really see people shying away from a lot. They're kind of scared of commitment. So getting our guys comfortable with that and exactly what that is. And then lastly, we talk about love and loving everything that we do, and kind of what that love is when we're talking about a football team and our family all intertwined together. So that's the challenging part about our profession, is it's constantly changing. Not only is the day-to-day calendar constantly changing, but the people that you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis is also changing. So keeps me young, keeps me fresh, at least keeps me thinking young, I should say. But no, I love the profession that I'm in, and love the culture building. And I think that's one of those things that when you're looking at like coaches overall and people that are in teams and like that's what the business world is, So having those guys set up for life when they walk out of these doors in 4 years, walk across that stage and get that diploma, knowing that these guys are ready for whatever life's challenge has, and that they're going to be probably better suited than your average Joe that went to college is going to be, because of what they've had to put up with, going through a football program and being, not only 1/11th, but one of the 100 kids on your team. Everybody has a role, and being able to carry exactly what that role is to find success.
Yeah, we're learning so much about, here at Waldorf, just about how important that is. And that's one of the things that has been pretty exciting from the point of view of Coach Chapa, and how he's just kind of, his first year was, he literally had 6 weeks from the time he was named head coach to the time that he was on the sidelines as head coach. And obviously then new conference, best conference in the nation as far as we're concerned. But then this last year, his first year in the GPAC, his second year as head coach, and, how we're just kind of seeing that starting to take shape. So we're pretty encouraged, just from fans. Troy he's involved in game day activities as our PA announcer. I've been with the team, I think 5 seasons as, just basically doing equipment, but they tell me that I'm director of player personnel, which I don't know what that means. It sounds like a big deal, but it sure is not. I'm the guy that just tries to stay in the locker room and make sure that they have mouthpieces before they go out on the field. Let's be honest. So, and talking about staff a little bit, tell us a little bit about your staff. How big is it? How long have your folks been around? And have there been any big changes for you or anything exciting going on over there in Yankton?
Yeah. So the staff, I've been pretty lucky of being able to bring a couple of the guys up from Kansas Wesleyan when I worked there. And starting with Coach Josh Lewis, he's my offensive coordinator here, play caller, coaches our quarterbacks. He was a guy that I coached against. So his dad is a longtime Friends university coach, and Monty Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's obviously got it in his blood and been around it. So he understood the expectations of everything. But I had him for a year as a defensive GA, and then he went over to the offensive GA under Coach Drinkle. So I knew that he was well-versed in coaching and all that stuff. So I brought him up here to be my offensive coordinator. I got Coach Heath Zook, who's been up here since a month after I got up here. He helped Grandview University in Des Moines, Iowa, start their program from scratch. And I brought him up here to do, he's my special teams coordinator. He's done a little bit with the offensive line. This year he's doing stuff with our running backs and backfield. Coach Heck, he's our defensive backs coach. He played for me at Kansas Wesleyan, played safety for me down there. Brought him up here in that first year. I got Coach Weebelhouse, who was a grad assistant here for 2 years, and then I hired him on a full-time. He's our offensive line guy now. I have Coach Sorensen, who ironically I recruited at Kansas Wesleyan straight out of high school. He went to Manhattan High School in Manhattan, Kansas.
Right.
But didn't do a good enough job recruiting him where he went to William and Jewell. So I lost him in the recruiting battle to a Division II in Kansas City. And then within 2 years, he called and was like, I made a mistake. I want to come play for you at Kansas Wesleyan. I'm like, that's awesome, but I'm leaving to go to Mount Marty. So I came up here. He transferred to Kansas Wesleyan. And then when he was done playing at Kansas Wesleyan, he's like, I want to be a coach. And finally, we were able to link up. So I got him up here to be a grad assistant.
Awesome.
And he does stuff with our defensive line. Peyton Ludeman, he's our outside linebackers coach from Southwestern Texas. He actually played with Coach Weebelhouse when in their college days. I have Coach Guest, who is he's really starting to this last year we had video replay and all that fun stuff that came with it. So he was a guy that I was able to get on staff to kind of help us with the video and all that, but he's really starting to dive into the X's and O's, and he's the assistant offensive line coach, being a grad assistant there. So that makes up my staff for what I had last year. I have a few guys that in that 36 that graduated that are going to transition into GAs this next year.
Yeah.
And really that's how I prefer to do it, is being able to hire guys that have played here or played for me, because they kind of understand how things are done. Now, you always like to bring in outsider here and there to kind of challenge the room and make sure that there's not too much groupthink going on or anything like that. But definitely want to make sure I'm producing more football coaches and making the football profession better any way I can.
Yeah, that's great. And that's one of the things that we see, as we entered the GPAC, is that those programs that have success, they really breed their own. If you look at, and again, you look at some of our top programs, your Morningside, your Northwestern and Dordt and stuff like that. When you go through their staff, it's like, they've been with that program for a long time. They may have been a player there even, they come. Yeah. So that's really, that's hopefully one of the things that we can do here at Waldorf too. You never know. We'd like to bring you here and send you home, this next fall with a little bit of a bad feeling in your mouth. But sounds like you got everything going the right direction, Coach. So that's the great part about the GPAC. There's never a game that you can go, well, we got this. No
doubt, 100%. And I think you hit the nail on the head there with the retention of the staff. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about retention of your athletes and all of that, but to me, you don't have that if you don't retain your staff, and especially today's age with once again, relating it back to social medias and stuff like that, and then the transfer portal era and all this other stuff going on, that it's so easy to get up and go to another school. And to me, that might be okay for some guys, like that might be the best thing for you. But to me, and how I've been raised and how I continue to think is, there's going to be tough times, and a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So being able to fight through some of those adverse situations is going to have a brighter outcome in the end if you're able to stick through it a little bit more. So, really instilling that throughout everybody else. And like you said, the programs that have kind of had a lot of retention with their staff. So, you mentioned Morningside and Coach Ryan, and his staff, has basically been the same staff for as long as I can remember, since I've been a player. So he's obviously doing a great job with that part. And, talking to Coach Chapa, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I got a good outlook on everything. And with a little bit of patience, and obviously, as we've mentioned, that's going to be needed a little bit with the GPAC. I think that the best times for Waldorf are ahead for sure.
Oh, we sure hope so. And again, it's we love being part. When actually Coach Gaspin, our athletic director, he called me one day and said, "Hey, you'll never guess what I have on my desk." And I'm, okay, what is that? He's like, "It's a letter requesting basically the first step in us joining the GPAC." And we were, again, super excited. That's where we felt like we belonged all the time. The other member institutions, we just feel like we fit with them. Nothing against the North Star, at least right here overtly. But those were state schools.
Yeah,
you're going up
for the most part.
Yeah, you're going up against some state schools, especially that last year that we were in. Dakota State and Dickinson State and all the Mayville and those schools. Nothing wrong with those schools whatsoever. They're great programs. They're good schools, good football teams. But when we lost Presentation and Iowa Wesleyan, it was a whole different ballgame where you had to play everybody twice that last season, and it was of course
a lot of travel.
12 and a half hours to
holy cow.
To Eastern Montana. Eastern Montana.
Well, you talk about bringing people up and using, and obviously recruiting from your region as best as you can, and I think that's a good opportunity to bring up your all conference this year. You had half of your all conference recognize. That's not even a word. The folks that were recognized, you had 6 folks recognized, 6 players, and then half of them were from South Dakota. One of them was right there from Yankton, South Dakota. So you've got you got 3 second team guys, Pastrana and Wallen and Pickthorn, and then 3 honorable mentions, and you got Hartz and Riken and Lambeth, right? So Hartz and Lambeth are from California, but you got Pastrana and make sure I get this. Pickthorn, they're both from South Dakota, and then Riken is right there from
Yankton boy. Yeah. So no, it's and Rex was one of those guys that we were able to sign in that very first year, the year before the year, and he was a big part to kind of get the things going, and he was a big time receiver in South Dakota high school history, more specifically for Yankton, rewrote the record book for like receptions and stuff like that. And he was a bigger body though, and I don't want to call him slow by any means, but a guy that I'm like, hey, we could probably transition him to tight end. And his junior year, he ended up being All-American. So awesome. Not this year, the year before that was All-American. It was awesome. Obviously our first All-American and program history, and then this last year he ended up breaking his leg against Dort in week 6 or something like that. So wasn't able to play in every game, but definitely a big part of getting some of that excitement for our locals, and I think if you can win locally in the recruiting game, that will only help you in the long run, but also help you immediately because when you bring those guys in from we had a kid from Germany, but we also had kids from, California, Texas, Florida, wanting those guys to feel at home. So what's better than have guys that are from their home, take them under their wing and welcome them to their hometown and, like I said, make them feel at home. So to me, it's a very important part obviously you're going to pitch it in many different ways. The why is important, but in what we're talking about right now is just about building that family atmosphere, is making those guys feel at home with home guys.
Well, and that was kind of a twofer for the Rikens. You got rugby as well. He's a quarterback for you. He's a sophomore. And that's, I'm assuming that's Rex's brother.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. That's a good assumption. He's a 2-sport athlete for us here. He's playing basketball right now, which is kind of a unique situation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Never had that before in my football coaching career, is sharing a dual sport with basketball. I've had quite a few track kids and a few baseball guys, but this one, especially this one being a quarterback, has kind of been different, but having a good relationship with Coach Authier, the men's basketball coach, has really helped allowing us to juggle rugby around.
Yeah, that is.
Basketball.
I don't think
we've got a baseball.
We've got a lot of guys on the team that play noon ball that are
at our YMCA.
That make the old guys at the Y
work hard,
suffer,
sweat.
But none of them are on the team. Yeah,
no, we don't.
Our last game this year, he played in Dome against Doane when we kicked off at 1, and then 2 hours later after our game, he played in a basketball game.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I couldn't imagine how he felt the next day, but I would not be getting out of bed.
A true athlete. No. Speaking of Doane, though, Coach, I have to ask you about. That's the one thing that I look at your season, and I'm like, well, that's 6-5 overall, really good. 5-5. Obviously, these all look good to us at Waldorf, but Doane, I feel like you could have had that one. It was a
should have had that one. It was
21-22. What happened?
We lost on the last play of the game when they went for 2 and got it. It was just one of those games that nothing. To me, you need a little bit of luck to have success, and especially when we mentioned a bunch in this conversation of the GPAC, and the way the ball bounces, the way the whistle blows, and things like that. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, and it was just one of those that seemed everything was going their way, and nothing was going right for us. And it was a high emotional game too. And that's one thing as a coach I look back on, and I could have probably done a better job of getting our guys prepared. But having so many 36 seniors getting ready to play, knowing that they're playing their last game, it was an emotional game, and I think that our heads were just in the wrong spot. Like I said, that's one thing that I kind of been beating myself up since then. Been a bad taste in my mouth, but I think we can look at it as a positive of getting us a little bit of motivation as we head into the off season of a good year. Yes, but it ended not the way we wanted to. So it gives us some, like I said, motivation as we were heading into the off season.
If we all take the Northwesterns and the Morningsides out of the picture, your games were close and that you came away, so you're obviously sticking it out. You beat Dakota Wesleyan in overtime in Mitchell, 24-17. That's a great win, especially early in the season like that, first opening GPAC game for you. And then obviously did a pretty good job against Waldorf. I know that was a pretty good spread, but I think that it's just, I was impressed with your score with Concordia. Concordia really came up. They really had a heck of a season for the most part.
Yeah.
And I was surprised coming in. That was our first game in the GPAC, and boy, did we get woke up. But you lost, but only by 4, 27-31 down there at home for them. So all these games are close. You're right there with it. That's where not necessarily where you want to be, but you're obviously doing a lot of things right.
Yeah, it's as you're reflecting on like Midland, we were able to score at the end of the game to go up and win. And as I mentioned, Doane, we lost in the last play of the game, and Hastings came down the last drive or so. Concordia came down the last drive, and obviously Dakota Wesleyan went into overtime, and that's just an overall look at what the GPAC is. Like as we've mentioned, it's a dogfight week in and week out. There's different type of rivalries built in. It's one of those games that, or one of those conferences that you can't have any mental lapse. You can't have any, if you have a player out, things like that, it's going to make a big difference in that game. So being able to have your best cards in hand each and every week, and then making sure that there's no mental losses. I guess I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but there's so many times that I looked at it before I became in the GPAC conference, were teams that would lose to Morningside before they even played them because they mentally,
Yep.
yeah, shoot, they're just so good. We're gonna lose to these guys, and they're already beat before the game even starts. Is making sure that we have none of that, and I think our guys are able to be more mature about that now that we've gotten through some of those early stages of that. Obviously, we still have some work to do of catching the Morningsides and the Northwesterns and all that, but making sure that it's not a mental barrier you're putting up. It's rather, okay, let's make sure that we control the controllables and making sure we have put our best foot forward.
Well, and obviously you did. I think that you nailed it. I mean, I never saw anybody in this entire conference, this entire last season, quit. And I was proud of our Warriors because, boy, you're coming in and you get to the end of the season and you know where you're at in the record. And I never saw, and they were still cheerful on the sidelines. They were, helping each other out. I never saw anybody ever really hanging their head and anything, and on either side of the gridiron. So that's just something that I think speaks very highly of the GPAC. And that's one of the reasons I think that we're so blessed, really, to be a part of it, and to make look. There's nowhere else to go but up, right? So we're looking forward to that opportunity. You're talking about catching the Northwesterns and the Morningsides. Like, Coach, we're trying to catch you.
That's the love of the game, right? You can't look too much on, and I can't concentrate on just those Morningsides and the Northwesterns. You got to make sure you do every little detail right, so that you don't get caught up by the next guy behind you. And that's the joy of everything, is you can't overlook any small detail.
That's for sure. So, Coach, we talked a lot of football. Let's talk a little bit about when the little bit of time that you get to yourself. What are some of the things that you like to do when you get to let your hair down, very briefly?
Yeah, I'm a big family guy. As I mentioned, my kids. So my oldest is involved in basketball and soccer's and different sports like that. So being able to help him out with his sports, and I don't know, I'm assuming you guys didn't get enough time to be able to check it out when you were up here, but the lake life up here is pretty entertaining, and obviously everything that goes around with that, whether that's fishing or boating or just relaxing by the water, different things like that allow you just to unwind a little bit. But
we talked about it, Coach. Like, Andy and I both have boats, and we thought we'd drag them across.
We need to
get over there and go fishing in Lewis and Clark and see what that's all about.
Definitely would do that for sure. You should try next time you guys come to town. They should bring the boats, hook them up to the back of the bus or something, and be able to.
That's not a bad idea. Maybe we can take like 3 or 4 of your starters in each boat and just kind of see what, take them out the day before the game, Coach.
The day before the game, everything's going to be fine. Totally legit.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem.
Well, what do they fish there though? What do they got?
Walleye.
Is it walleye? I mean, Andy,
walleye. The other big stuff below the dam is the paddle fish.
Oh
that's always a big thing in the area here. The big fish on there, but they'll have some fishing tournaments and stuff like that for those. Usually that's during our camp and all that, so we miss out on that. But it's always fun seeing what players, during hunting seasons and during fishing.
Oh boy,
what they catch or what they got. So it's a big part, obviously, where we're at. Geographically located, the hunting and the fishing stuff.
Yeah, we had a player graduated a couple of years ago. He showed me a video. Late in the season. He shot a deer and it collapsed out in a little bit of a marsh, so he didn't have any boots, so he stripped down to his underwear and walked out in the middle of the marsh in like November to pull this darn deer. And it's just as cold here as it is there. So I think it might have been a nice day. And
it must have been.
I don't remember if that was Morgan Dostal or I can't remember the guy's name.
I thought you were going to talk about Jimmy, the gator hunter. But
he's a Mississippi kid.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Very good. Well, that's those are good things for the players and for you to let your hair down. I mean, I think that we're going to take the coaches fishing.
Yeah, we
Andy, we say that. It's like, hey, Coach, we're going to go fishing, and we'll take you out to Okoboji or whatnot. And I don't know, they like to golf. Oh, we got to get Coach Chapa holding the fishing rod there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah,
not during the season though.
No.
All right. Well, Coach, I'll tell you what, we're getting close to that hour time, and we don't want to take too much of your time. We know, again, we're around the coaches all the time, and we know how busy that you are. And number one, we super appreciate just you being able to sit down with us and, letting some of our fans, get to know that these guys that are out there in the GPAC, just the quality of individuals that we have through in and throughout. And it's just been great being able to talk to you about a little bit of football and kind of getting to kind of figure out what makes you tick a little bit. So appreciate it very much.
We always like to give the coach, our guest, the last word, anything that you want to say. I think as while you're thinking of what it is that you want to say, I want to preface a couple things. We obviously we love small college football, and we think we've coined a phrase. I don't know if we've trademarked it, but we say the best small college football experience in America. And we want all of our fans and our players, we want our alum to feel like what we're doing at Bullstorf Field each week in the season is important and valuable. And we think that there's so much to being a part of a team in the purest form, as Coach Franzen said last week. He's like, this is just pure football. These kids are paying to be here. They're going out and they're having an opportunity to compete in a great conference. And that's something that, regardless of the fact that we're the Waldorf Gridiron Club podcast, we seek to promote that type of competition and that type of camaraderie in a great conference.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you definitely hit a nail on the head there of, the best small college football conference in America. And that's one thing that, as competitive as we all are and how much we root for our own teams and all that, that there is a lot of like-minded individuals leading a lot of good people in each one of these different teams. So I think it's super special what you guys are doing and definitely unique. And I think it's a fun way to let all your fans know a little bit more about the GPAC. So I definitely appreciate the opportunity and look forward to making our way out to Forest City this next fall.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Look forward to actually being able to look in the eye and shake your hand, and we can put names to faces. Of course, we can look at your picture online, and you talked about something a little earlier in the conversation. You said, well, it's keeping me young. And if I had to look at your picture, I would say you're probably about a GA because you look extremely young, so you're doing something right. No, you're doing something right with your life because, if you'd see pictures of Troy and I, we look like grizzled old men.
Right. Grizzled old men, yes,
but
yes.
We are grizzled old men.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's just one of those things. All right, Coach. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend a little bit of minutes with us, just letting everybody know about what's going on over there in Yankton at Mount Marty and Lancer football. So appreciate it very much, Coach.
Always. You guys take care.
Sure will. All right. That's going to do it for us. For Troy Thompson, this is Andy Buffington, and forever and always, go Warriors.
We stole a Chevy Vega and drove it to Winnebago, where we were on track with a pain in our back that no dome could ever shake her. We dressed a Sasquatch in a t-shirt, figured heck it probably couldn't hurt. Found a scorpion over in Yankton.
Yankton is very much a football town.
Smack while pranking. Oh, there's nothing like a tailgate on a weekend.
Holy cow, when did these people get here?
All gather around the field. Don't matter if you offend or defend. Our Warriors never, ever, ever yield.
I always remember my dad saying that a true man never walks by responsibility. So if there's something to get done, not leave it for the next man.
We took a route for the briars down the cliff. Some sisters got snookered by a gopher riff. And the Corn Palace blazed in the morning side sun as we made friends with hobos and loaded our gun. We drive that old Vega down the road in a jiff.
It's part of the fun of, you don't want an easy path. You want to challenge day to day.
It was a summer of dissing and laughing and such as we poked at our new rivals a little too much. The bunker got repainted and coach nearly fainted when we drove that old Vega right into the Dutch. Oh, there's nothing like a tailgate on a weekend, where friends and foes all gather around the field. Don't matter if you offend or defend, our Warriors never, ever, ever yield.
There's going to be tough times, and a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. So being able to fight through some of those adverse situations is going to have a brighter outcome in the end if you're able to stick through it a little bit more.
and laughing and such.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
At our new rivals a little too much. The bunker got repainted and coach nearly fainted when we drove that old Vega right into the Dutch. Oh, there's nothing like a tailgate on a weekend when friends and foes all gather around the field.
We've been number 1 or number 2 in the GPAC of attendance.
Our warriors never, ever, ever yield.
Next time you guys come to town, you should bring the boats, hook them up to the back of the bus or something. Well, now you're pretty much selling the opportunity for them to create the tradition. Never walk by responsibility.
You can join the Waldorf Gridiron Club and be part of the best small college football experience in America.
Just visit our website and pick your membership level. Find us and everything Waldorf Gridiron Club related, including professional photos, at waldorfgridironclub.org.
You can also click on the Support the Show link in the show notes to donate.
And you can even use the United States Postal Service by sending your check to the Waldorf Gridiron Club, P.O. Box 125, Forest City, Iowa, 50436.
It's tax exempt, hassle-free, and has a level for every budget.
That's right. Anyone can join, even our rivals.
Show your colors. Join the Gridiron Club today.
Get it?
Got it. Fantastic.
The Waldorf Gridiron Club podcast is hosted by Andy Buffington and me, Troy Thompson. Produced by Sunnyside Farm Studios in beautiful rural Forest City, Iowa. Platformed by Buzzsprout and music by Soundstrike. The Waldorf Gridiron Club is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the student athletes of the Waldorf University football program. Our mission is to assist the program in maintaining the best small college football experience in America.